Hey everybody, welcome marketers. Welcome to the Funnel Lab. This is Funnel Lab Fridays. I am one of your hosts, along with CaliberMind CEO Eric Westerkamp. I'm Doug Bell, fractional CMO for CaliberMind, also partner and CMO for Chief Outsiders. I am joined today by Angela Hill. Angela Hill, ready for her title. She is CMO and area managing partner for Chief Outsiders. Angela and I are professed AI application geeks. Angela, welcome back to the Funnel Lab.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
I'm going to ask you to talk about rules for the applications we're going to be talking about today. But before we get there, let me set up the show. So, folks, we're going to be talking today about what we think are the top 5 applications for marketing and marketing analytics. I'm going to mention something. Unlike most of our Funnel Labs, I'm not going to be showing off the CaliberMind product today. It is one of the best AI-driven enterprise analytics platforms out there. If you don't believe me, go to the website, check them out. Angela and I, as a part of our job, this is why we get to say we're AI geeks. Angela, you ready? We have to get a lot of work done for a lot of clients, quite often simultaneously. And I think the crowd of folks that have adopted AI most vigorously, I would argue, are fractionals. And I would argue that management consultants really have taken up these applications because it helps us in our day-to-day life. But there's a flip side to that, which is we've got to help our clients operate better, work faster, and have them be able to do things they couldn't do before. Guess what that is? That's AI. So we're in this place where we use AI in our day-to-day, but we're also in this place where we're recommending applications and or infrastructure for our clients that is AI driven. So we've got a bunch of cool tools we're going to talk about today. We're going to be talking about something called Gamma. We're going to be talking about Pathmonk. We're going to be talking about something called Lightbulb, which in combination with AI makes a very nice pairing. We're going to be talking about Claude for marketing analytics and Perplexity. With that whole preamble, Angela, what are our rules for the applications we're showing off today?
All right. So the rules are we have to have used them ourselves or with a client. And it has to help me do something today that I couldn't do before, or it helps me do something better.
Okay, that's good stuff. We've got, I think, Angela, our list probably started at 20. And we worked our way down quite a bit. So there's lots and lots of applications we're using. We're not going to talk about today, but guess what? Angela's going to be back. We're going to do this once a month. And this landscape changes so quickly. I imagine we've got new applications. In fact, Angela showed me a new application that is a competitor to Gamma right before we jumped on today. I haven't used it. I don't know that you used it a ton either, so it's not going to make the show, but maybe we'll show it off to compare.
Yep.
So I think we get started, Angela. And here's the thing, folks. We're going to demo. We're going to show you this stuff. This is not just 2 people in a room talking. We're going to show off what we're using today. And we're going to start with Pathmonk. Angela, you want to set us up? Tell us about Pathmonk and then show us how it's done.
Sure. So Pathmonk is an AI software that basically overlays on your website. And the way it works is it shows information at different stages of the buyer journey. So basically, it considers the buyer intent based on the way the user interacts with the website. And as you go deeper into the website, as a website visitor does, it shows you different content. Now, why would you want to do this instead of, maybe improving your search function or your sitemap or having a chat feature? You want to do all of those things, and you want to overlay something like Pathmonk to improve the buyer journey because people think in different ways than you do. So one of the conversations that Doug and I have is the way I process information or the way my client processes information is not necessarily the way their customer processes information. And that's really the purpose of Pathmonk, is that it says, okay, I see you're on this website. You seem to be trying to find this kind of information. Let me serve it up to you and make it easier for you to find. And so the results that I've seen with my clients, one client, we got a 50% increase in conversions. And the other client, we got a 70% increase in conversions. And the way the software works is it does A/B testing so that you can show a certain percentage, like 50% or 10% or 5%, with no Pathmonk, and the other percentage with Pathmonk. And then you can analyze the conversions that you get. What kind of conversions are they? What's the path of the user? as they enter and exit the site. And so
I'm gonna add this to the stage here now. Angela, I'm gonna show you guys Pathmonk. Thanks for the setup there, Angela. As you're about ready to talk about this, I'm going to mention what existed prior, right? This is sort of the world of A/B and split testing, or the world of personalization, but that was sort of logic-based personalization quite often. I would set up a workflow or rules for personalization. So this is sort of a big step forward. And I would say that one of the things this is really exciting for, and one of the reasons that I was psyched for you to talk about Pathmonk today, Angela, was that what I'm recommending really with clients is, and especially in SaaS where the world is sort of topsy-turvy right now, hyper focus on your top of funnel, get those conversion rates up, and do everything you can to sort of drive bottom of funnel efficiency simultaneously. Because what's happening in the middle is really messy. A lot of deals are going south and going sideways fast. So Angela, take us through Pathmonk.
Yeah, so this is Pathmonk. This is the Pathmonk website. You can see this pop-up overlay. And for comparison, I have my client's website over here. Basically, what we did was we entered in the URL. The AI crawls the website for content. It makes recommendation for the content, and it auto-generates an AI avatar, which now talks to you to guide you through the journey. And then we have two micro experiences. The first micro experience is the primary call to action, or the primary conversion that we're measuring in terms of SEO, like Google Analytics, or on our paid search side. The number one priority for the client is a booked appointment. And then popular services is another way to navigate the information. So what's really cool about Pathmonk is that as I set it up and it crawls the website and it learns from the users, I can designate the conversion either by placing a pixel on the thank you page that is after the appointment booked, or I can tie it to my Google Tag Manager where I'm tracking the conversion that's tied to my Google Goal Funnel conversion, or I can connect it with my software. And so what we did with this particular client is we connected it with their appointment booking software, because I think they've got like 15 locations. And so we have 15 different appointments booked as a conversion.
Okay, so it's incredibly flexible. You're optimizing to a conversion point, in this case, appointments.
Right.
The ability to optimize those appointments is based on placing a pixel. And so the whole AI engine in the background is constantly optimizing a journey towards that conversion. And then, Angela, when you debriefed me on this back in the fall, you also sort of talked about how that path is optimized along the way, how journeys are sort of split, and the AI is examining. So it's not just, hey, I'm going to put an annoying thing in front of you so you click on this button to convert.
Yep.
It's the entire journey it's optimizing.
Exactly. So basically it's increasing the lead gen. It's really great for e-commerce. And the way it thinks about it is it thinks about it like in terms of a funnel. And so where do we want to show content at different stages within the funnel? And it's always optimizing for that ideal behavior that we want. So It could be a marketing qualified lead with a form submission. It could be an e-commerce transaction. It could be an appointments booked, like for my med spa client.
And is this something that you're using with your B2B clients as well?
Yes, I have another client that I use it for. It's a compounding pharmacy, and their target audience is physicians and nurse practitioners that prescribe medication. And it works almost better for that particular client because the language, we're talking about medication and using medical terms. The language is complicated. And so what we've done in that particular scenario is, let's see if I can bring it up right now real quick. What we've done is we've optimized the journey based on wanting to serve content to patients versus physicians, because the primary target audience for this client is the doctor.
Okay.
And so like as I go along and I'm clicking around and I'm looking stuff, maybe I want to look at the products. Okay, maybe I want to go look at this provider portal. So like as it sees my behavior, it's going to say, oh, okay, I think you're looking for this kind of content.
Okay. And so it's look again back to this idea of optimizing for your top of funnel, because so much can go sort of sideways in the middle these days.
Yeah.
The key thing really is B2C versus B2B. Whether to use it or not is quite often based on site volume, right? So B2B organizations don't tend to as much as site volume. So any concerns there about lower high site volume being useful with Pathmonk?
No, it doesn't have anything to do with site volume. It's all about optimizing for the conversion. So I guess my advice would be, if your website isn't converting, maybe you need to look at the user experience and the messaging first before you put something like this. But if you're converting even a little bit, this will improve that conversion.
All right. I like Pathmonk. I haven't had an opportunity to implement Pathmonk, but I like it, and I'm looking for an opportunity to do it. So, okay, we're going to move on to the next application. Angela, thanks for this. We're going to talk about something called Gamma. If you're not familiar with Gamma, it effectively is an AI-driven slide creation engine that is heavily integrated with a number of other applications that are out there. So I'm going to pull this up on stage here today. You're in Gamma right now, everybody. You're seeing it, and what Angela and I wanted to do is sort of walk you through how it works, but also what we're going to do is show you how, and this is sort of our first bit of how do you use AI to help AI, right? We're sort of calling this prompt layering today. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up with a brand new, here we are. I'm going to come up with a brand new template. Here we are in Gamma. Again, I'm going to ask AI to generate this. And then what I'm going to do is to just, so there's prompt-based. Actually, let me go back into, oops, yeah, I'm in the right place. So I'm going to ask it for a certain number of slides. So what you're seeing here is sort of what you can do. There's a combination of either presentation, web page, or document. I have not used it for web page yet. I'm going to actually use it today for web page. So I'll report back, Angela, on how good it is. But effectively, what you're doing, you say how many cards do I want, and you're going to say, look, here's what I'm thinking. So the prompt. So Angela, at the same time, you're going to be in Claude, correct, to do this?
Yep.
Yep. Okay. So this is dueling AI. I highly recommend this. I'm doing this all the time. You're going to hear about something called the Cannonball, which is a live stream that's going to be talking about how to use these methodologies quite a bit. In the meantime, let's talk about this. So I want an 8 slide. I want a deck that helps my audience understand why a series of applications on their Siri. And why this will include Pathmonk, Gamma, and a combination of Claude and Perplexity. There we go. All right, so watching me sort of fat finger the prompt, what's going to happen next is it's going to create an outline. Angela, do you have what you need there?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So this is not that magical, right? It's a prompt. That's cool. It sort of understood what was going on. This is where it gets interesting. And the reason we're putting this out there is so much of what marketing does ultimately is about communicating, sharing information. And we spend way too much time in flat, boring PowerPoint presentations. I'm going to pick a theme here, whatever one they, actually I'm going to generate a theme. There we go, pick a theme. And what you can see is that sort of like it's populating the slides. Again, is that the point of efficiency for all people? It's a big one, right? But here's the thing that I really love about Gamma. I don't know if you guys have access to iStock Photo, but I have for probably 8 years been using iStock Photo, and quite often I'm having to create graphics that sort of represent a point I'd like to make. What's happening is it's embedding graphics, but also it's going to let you go and actually update both the content based on AI, but it's going to let you update these graphics using AI. So before we get to that piece, which is super cool, I'm sort of a graphics person, so I like this. I'm not a graphic artist, but I love the impact of graphics. Angela, you did the same thing in parallel with Claude. You want to talk us through what you just did?
Sure. So I have my screen ready to go, but I haven't generated it, and I use the exact same prompt.
Okay. All right.
So do you want to see my screen?
I'm going to let you show your screen here, Angela.
Okay.
Here we go. I have all control over the
All
sharing.
right.
So
So
there
the
you go.
only thing that I added was create an outline. So I'm making this in Claude, and then while I'm waiting for that to go, I'm going to do the same thing in Perplexity. Let's see if Perplexity is going to let me. There we go. Okay. So now I have this outline. I'm going to copy this and put it in the chat. I'm going to send it to you.
All right. And so what I'm going to do, I'm going to start again. And sort of this is a really good bridge, sort of a really good bridge over into sort of layering with AI. And what I want to do is also have a conversation about using the combination of Claude and Perplexity, Angela, and sort of talk about how those two things can work really well together. All right. So Angela, you're going to send this over to me. Maybe you put it over on Slack. It's not coming through the chat here today.
Oh, okay.
And what I'm going to do is just load that up for us.
All right. I sent you both of them via the chat, and I'm going to send it to you via Slack.
Perfect.
One moment, please. Right. So the first one I'm sending to you right now is from Claude. And then the second one that I'm going to send to you is from Perplexity. And that way we can compare the prompts and we can compare what's generated. Okay. So the thing that I notice when I'm looking at the Perplexity, because it has the ability to crawl the web, is that it is showing me sources.
Love Perplexity. So I've taken this prompt. Angela, feels like I cut it off a little bit, but let's go with it for the moment. Basically, I'm going to pick the same theme. And I don't know that we're going to see a material difference between the two, but when you and I were, actually, it's the outline is very similar. The content has gotten richer.
Right. And I think that's what was so interesting is that, I mean, you know this, but I think about it when I'm talking to ChatGPT or Claude or Perplexity. The more detail I give it, the better output I get back. But I don't always think about the same thing when I'm using an AI tool like Gamma. Oh, the more information I give it, the better I get back. But I don't have to come up with it all by myself. I can give it the prompt I would normally give Gamma, put it over in Claude, get the richer document in terms of the outline back, then feed that into Gamma. That gives me an accelerated head start. So it's not that we're using this to create a final version of this presentation. It's more of a, I don't know, I like to think of it like a sourdough starter, right? You know, it's a thought starter. It gets me a little bit further ahead. Now I can go in and add my knowledge and my experience and make the content better.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the other thing that's really trippy is this is not content that Angela and I offered up to the engine. So it has context here. It is creating, if you will, draft content, which sort of gets back to this idea of the richer and richer prompt. The other thing I'm going to mention about Gamma here ultimately is that it has AI built in such that you can edit and or crawl and grab content. So highly recommend Gamma. This meets the rule of me using it. I will say it's been about a month that I've been using Gamma, and I have not created a PowerPoint since I started using Gamma. It is inexpensive and awesome. I know the team over there sort of secondarily through a friend, and I have to say, apparently great culture, and I think great culture produces great product. Okay, Angela, we want to shift gears a little bit. We're going to talk about something called Lightbulb and how to combine that with Claude. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Sightbulb. I said I would do that. I told you I would do that. Sightbulb. Here we go. Sightbulb, not Lightbulb. Sightbulb. So what I'm going to do is have Angela show off Sightbulb, not Lightbulb, and talk to us about this, because this is not an AI application per se, and this happens all the time. We are using mashups of application but with really at the end of the day, at AI at its core. And I love this use case for you. So walk us through Lightbulb and sort of talk us through what you're doing here.
Yeah. So if you can share my screen real quick. Lightbulb is an application that I use to do SEO audits for clients. And what it does is I plug in the URL, I give it a whole bunch of parameters I want to look at, and then it gives me back typically 90 to 100 page report. So I can't give that report to a client. They're not going to read it. They're not going to understand it. It's too much information. So instead, what I do is I take that report and I give a prompt to Claude and I say, please analyze the attached document, provide an executive summary in this format. This is a format that I've used with other clients that I know I like, that's easy to read and digest. I then upload the 100-page PDF file to Claude. The reason I like Claude better than ChatGPT for this is because Claude has a larger character limit, so I can upload a bigger document for it to analyze. And then what it gives me back is it gives me the executive summary, audit overview, crawl statistics, key findings, and recommendations.
So much of, I feel like so many of the use cases that I've explored personally, and I've seen others really be successful with, is partnership between different applications and AI. Do you find yourself downloading GA4 data at all in using Claude or Perplexity or ChatGPT to understand that data? Because this is really about presenting the data and consolidating the data. But you've talked to me about sort of how you're using those tools to do the analysis itself, the core analysis.
Yeah, so usually what I do is I do a combination of Lightbulb, which does the crawler, and basically it's a technical SEO audit, which I can give to the in-house SEO team or the web dev person or the agency, whoever's in charge of optimizing on the developer side. And then I also use Built With, which does an analysis of the tech stack that's tied to the website. And I use Google Page Speed Insights for mobile and for desktop. And so between those three tools, it gives me a very comprehensive picture from a technical SEO perspective regarding what's working and what's not working for a current site. And for example, I did an audit for a client. They were having issues with page speed, but they said strangely it had just started happening a few months earlier and they weren't sure why. So I go into Built With, I do the tech audit. Turns out they were using Cloudflare for a caching of the website, right? So because they had the CDN with Cloudflare, they had somebody had let the software license expire. Just so happened that the last month that they used Cloudflare, the next month is when they start experiencing page speed issues and getting dinged for that. But you can't know that unless you interview everybody that's ever purchased software for the client. So that's where something like Built With gives you that kind of behind the curtain, behind the kimono peek that you normally wouldn't get when you're expected as a fractional CMO to get up to speed really fast. I'm using these tools to give me intelligence, and then I'm analyzing the data, and then I'm like a detective, I'm figuring out what's going on without having full access to everything.
Yeah, and that's such a great use case, Angela. You always have the best use cases and how you're combining AI. My most exciting is taking GA4 and Google Campaign data into Claude and sort of iterating on it to the point that I could put it in Gamma for a group of investors to understand site performance. So I'm always sort of impressed with your ability to combine the things. But one thing I want to talk about a bit more before we wrap up today is this idea of sort of prompt layering or prompt iteration. And you and I gave like this little teeny sort of mini example because it's easy to understand on a live stream, which was, going and saying, hey, Claude, help me create a prompt for this other thing, Cam.
Right.
Right. So I'm going to mention what I'm seeing quite a bit, and then I'm curious about how you're seeing this used, Angela, because we are beginning to learn that each of the different AI engines has positives and negatives and sort of things that they are good at. So you mentioned Perplexity a moment ago. Perplexity is awesome if you've got a group of folks that are sort of needing to understand exactly where the data came from. Perplexity will cite, to the degree it can, it will cite as much as it can, right? And so
Yeah.
for me, when I'm using Perplexity, it is sort of the research tool that I'm using, because I can look and go, yeah, AI is somewhat accurate because it's citing accurate things. Claude, I think, is really good with iteration, but also with narrative. And then finally, ChatGPT, I feel like it's the OG these days.
Yeah.
If you guys haven't checked out OG ChatGPT, but the Pro version, $200 a month, it is sort of AI unbounded. Now, is it worth $2,400 a year? I'll leave that up to you. But sort of going into that, the way that you and I often work, Angela, is we're using one engine where it's best. So Perplexity for sort of leading edge research search, and then adding it back to Claude because Claude's better narrative. But here's the other thing I want to mention, which sort of tripped me out when I learned it this fall, is you should be using your AI to write your prompts for you.
Oh, yes.
Talk
Yeah,
about that.
you can ask it to write it better. And I always like to put something in there like, if you need more clarification, ask me questions to better understand what I'm trying to accomplish before you generate the response. And so that's really fun because it'll come back and say, okay, well, I think you're trying to accomplish this. So I need more information. 1, 2, 3. I answer those questions and it says, okay, I think I understand what you're trying to accomplish. Here's the result. Now, the initial result, unless you've gotten really, really good at dialing in your prompts or you feed it, this is what I want the response to look like, match this format. You always have to have a dialogue with the AI and say, okay, this is close, but make it more succinct or give me more detail, or I need you to expand on this area. So I feel like it's a thought partner with a conversation. And then what you get from it, that's your thought starter that you can then go and do something else with it. But it accelerates the process.
That is a perfect setup to where I want to land conversation today. Angela, I really appreciate your being with us. Because we had promised talking about sort of the top 5 tools for marketing, but also for marketing analytics. And that sets us up for what I think are best practices for using Perplexity, Claude and ChatGPT for analytics. And one of the things that initially sort of tripped me up was how often the analysis was wrong. And what I learned over time, to some degree, there's ghost data. But there's really 2 tips, and I'd love to respond to this, that I have going in. I'm going to talk about sort of prompt engineering in a moment. I'm going to talk about error trapping, which Angela did a great job of sort of talking about, which is an interaction with the AI engine. But the other piece is this, is you're sort of heading in, don't dump data into the AI where you don't have an understanding of the data and you don't have an understanding of sort of what those conclusions are you're trying to draw to. In other words, so you can sort of square what you're seeing against what you're expecting. It's almost like an audit checklist, right? I'm expecting it to produce this, have some understanding of the data. It seems like a silly tip, but quite often this is where I see people getting tripped up on. But we're going to go back to this idea of analytics and I love using Claude for analytics. I just feel like it does the best job, and it's really good at sort of at narrative. So I'm going to go back to this tip you gave, which I think is awesome. Put the prompt in, and then yes, ask the AI engine, in my analysis, what am I missing? What other questions can I ask you? So you nailed it perfectly. I'm just going to say my goal is 3. In other words, I'm going to build a prompt where it's only got 3 questions. My standard's about 15 questions. So I think my prompt needs to get better. And then the last tip I'm going to give here, and again, I'd like you to take us out on this, is once you've got the data in and you've been through that iteration, ask it the following magic words: what am I missing? It's a much smarter application than you. So Angela, sort of take us out on this idea of using prompt engineering, but using iteration and then using sort of Q&A to help you with the analytics piece.
Yeah, so I think one of the most important things that I start with is I tell the AI who I am, what my role is, who the response is for, what's their level of sophistication with the information, and how I need to communicate with them before I give it this is what I want you to analyze, or this is what I want you to write up. And so I have found that, I mean, it's just like anything. The higher quality of what you put in improves the higher quality of what you get out. And that's in life, that's in business, it's in AI too.
I feel like there's a book coming, Angela Hill, The Zen of Pooh, Pooh Bear, and the Zen of AI. Angela, it's always so awesome to have you on the show. You're constantly surprising me with applications I haven't heard about. I'm going to sort of take us out with just some reminders about what we talked about today. The first thing is, I will tell you everything I recommended in Claude. My preference for everybody in the audience is to use a marketing analytics platform to get that stuff done. So it's sort of the poor person's hack to, if you don't have a great marketing analytics platform with AI in the background. I love CaliberMind, folks. I am obviously biased. I've been working with the company for 2 years now. They have amazing software. Check it out. It's called Ask Claude. It is happening in real time. By the way, we stand behind our data analytics, right? That's really what you want at the end of the day. The other thing is, Angela's going to be back. So Angela, we're going to have more AI applications to talk about. I have now, by the way, created a monster people. I'm getting 3 Slacks a day from Angela with different applications he's running into. So our rules remain the same. We have to use or have applied that AI in the marketplace. So Angela, thanks so much for spending so much time with us today. Final thing we're going to mention, Angela, thanks again. We have Whitney Rosa coming onto the show on January 31st. She's the Director of Marketing Operations for Brightly Software, a Siemens company. They're doing some cool stuff over there with the help of CaliberMind. We're going to be talking about when to move from an object-based to an engagement-based funnel. Pretty cool stuff for us in the Funnel Lab. Have a great rest of your Friday, everybody. Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.